Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another We Read the Documents live stream. Your host, John Brisson. Thank you for being a subscriber. This is a follow-up stream to one of my streams I've done many, many years ago, back in 2021, Resistance to Rebellion is Obedience to God. So this is a follow-up. This is part 2 of it. So let's play here recently a couple of clips from Trump's signing of the executive order and his speech to reporters. I'd suggest that everybody go listen to and watch the whole thing because, oh boy, we're going to play a lot of clips from it. It's definitely a watch, let's say that, from what I've seen so far. But this is Trump signing executive order punishing a year in prison with no time off for good behavior for those who burn the American flag.
Country. Let's go.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason, which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You could do other things. You can burn this piece of paper.
I could burn the Israeli flag? I could burn that one, Trump? Can I burn that one? Or is that anti-Semitic? Is it anti-Semitic for me to burn the Israeli flag? Can't burn the American flag, but I can burn the Israeli flag, right? That's freedom of speech. Right, Herr Trump?
But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. In a way, both.
When you burn a flag, people go nuts. They go insane. They just, I don't know what comes over them. They just go crazy, chat. They go crazy.
Ways. There are some that are going crazy for doing it. There are others that are angry about them doing it. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure. So what the executive order does, sir, it charges your Department of Justice with investigating instances of flag burning, and then.
Yes, occultocracy. You destroy, according to U.S. flagpole, flag code, when the flag is worn beyond repair, you burn it. But you're supposed to salute the flag when you burn it. We're going to get to that in a minute. And we're going to do another probably 16, I think this is 117, so 117.1 stream on why Christians should not say the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag and American flag and where it actually comes from, biblically. Swear no oath. But, that's going to be 17.1, where the history of the Pledge of Allegiance came from and what it was for. And it wasn't since, the inception of this country. It happened in the late 1800s. But, yeah, so a sign of respect, is burning a flag. Now, they would say, well, that's different than burning it out of anger or out of hatred. And, yes, I can understand intention can matter. But, through freedom of the speech, speech doesn't necessarily mean speak. It means, action. It means, you can write something down, right? It's not necessarily speech that comes out of your mouth, but it's your actions. It's writing stuff down. It's speaking, okay? So if I'm upset at the American government and an action, the government cannot prosecute me for burning a flag. It's not harming anybody. It's not like I'm breaking any other laws. There are actions that you can't do, for example, like assault somebody or murder somebody. You can't say that's freedom of expression, right? But burning a flag, burning an object is, it's an action. Yes, occultocracy, freedom of nonviolent symbolic action. That's protected. Now, I understand you can argue about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, what they really mean. Do our government really ever really care about it? But these things are in place and are the laws of the land of where we live, which is the United States of America. Therefore, as Christians, unless those laws cause you to harm yourself or harm your fellow man, or those laws cause you to blaspheme God, we're supposed to follow them. And so the court was 5-4 decision, but the court was right in Texas versus Johnson, and we're going to get to that you should be able to burn the American flag.
And where there's evidence of criminal activity, where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment, and instructs the Department of Justice to prosecute those who are engaged in these instances of flag burning.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is
incite to riot.
Burning a flag is not necessarily an incitation to riot. If you burn a flag in silence, you're not inciting a riot. You can't use that argument. It's flawed logic. Now, if you burn a flag, I guess it could, if you burn the American flag, whip the crowd up into a frenzy enough for them to riot. But in and of itself, it's not an incitation to riot. Now, if you're burning the flag and you're saying, yeah, let's burn everything down, let's go, let's riot, let's destroy everything, let's burn it down to the ground, then yeah, that's not protected by the First Amendment. But if you burn a flag and say, I detest the United States government, that is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Bill of Rights added onto the Constitution.
And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the Statute and Monument Act. 10 years in jail if you hurt any of our beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone. Never had a problem after that. It's pretty amazing. We stopped it.
Yes, that's destruction of property. That's not a protected First Amendment right? You're just destroying property, which is a crime. It's vandalism or destruction of property or theft of property, which is crime. But burning your own American flag that you bought is not a crime. That is a speech protected, part of the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights. So he's trying to false compare the two. They're not the same.
But this is something that's, I don't know, in a certain way, it's equally as important. Some people would say it's more important. Because the people in this country don't want to see our American flag burned and spit on. And by people that are, in many cases, paid agitators. They're paid by the radical left to do it. You talk to these people, they don't even know, half of them don't even know what they're doing. They say, I don't know. They gave me money to do this.
It's by the radical left. The radical left and the burning of flags. Not strict constitutionalists who are conservative, such as myself. We would never burn the flag as defiance of your order, which is unconstitutional against the law of the land, Trump. And again, resistance to rebellion is obedience to God. Nonviolent protest is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're inciting rebellion, when you're causing rebellion, yes, that's different. It's different.
I see the same things that you do. They're bad people. They're trying to destroy our nation. That's not working because I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world by far. You saw that with the European leaders on Friday. You saw that with NATO, where they agreed to go from 2% no pay to 5% fully paid up, trillions of dollars paid, where they respect your president to a level that they jokingly call me the president of Europe. They call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. I like Europe.
They call me the president of Europe. Look, we've gone 3 minutes in, and so far, what have we gotten here? A year in jail if you burn the American flag. No time off for good behavior the full year. No pardons. It'll go on your record if you burn the American flag, which is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Bill of Rights. And was upheld in a 5-4 court decision of Texas versus Johnson, rightfully so. We have only leftists leftist agitators, half of them not knowing what they're doing. They're being paid. I want to see receipts of who's getting paid. Who's getting paid? Like, who's getting paid, right? Who? I need receipts. Like, follow the money. We're told to follow the money in alternative media. How do we know these? Some of this isn't genuine. If I film myself burning a flag, which at this point I might do because I'm that mad at this, okay? And again, yes, I understand the flag, right? And its symbology of America and, the citizens of America. Like, I understand that, right? But how much idolatry of the flag do we have? As American citizens, how much idolatry do we have, especially Christians, especially, and I'm talking to Christians out there, chat, the ones who are born again, how many Christians, have Americana and America and the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance as an idol? When I go to my wife's church and they're opening up, what do you call that? Vacation Bible School. And they open up with a Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And then second, do a Pledge of Allegiance to God. I think the order's backwards, chat. It's just me, but I think it's backwards. But that's the state of the American church. Again, I don't see the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm waiting for someone to say something to me. Swear no oath. Swear no oath. I'm waiting for someone to say, why don't you say the Pledge of Allegiance? We're in a church. And yes, I love the American people. I am an American. My family has been here for 300 years. But again, we're going to read some passages. We're going to read a work of the early church. I'm just a passerby. My allegiance is not to the American government. Now, my allegiance is ultimately to God, and in doing so, I honor my fellow man, which are my American brothers and sisters. Okay, from a nationalist sense that are around me. All right, it's not the other way around.
I like those people. They're good people. They're great leaders. And we've never had a case where 7 plus really 28, essentially 38 countries were represented here the other day. 38 European countries were represented. European and other countries were represented, and it was a great meeting. But your country is respected again. I say it all the time.
Are we respected again, chat? Does the world really respect us, chat?
1 year ago, our country was dead. Everybody said it. We had a dead country.
Everybody said America was dead under Biden. It was just dead, chat. It was dead.
We were not going to survive.
No.
Now we have the hottest.
We're not going to survive. We're Trump. Again, I talked about it. The first Trump administration, drive the ball down the court. The Biden administration, drive the ball further down the court, laid it up, and now Trump's dunking it in. From Palantir to Andrew Industries to Peter Thiel, it's en completion. And then, I don't know, maybe it's not dunked in. Maybe Trump will pass it off right before he dunks it in to whoever the Democrats put in power next that will have all of this laid out in front of them. If Trump isn't the Antichrist and things are going to continue on for decades. Everybody stop and think that's a possibility. We have military in the streets and martial law, and he hands it off to Gavin Newsom. Anybody listening, you think Gavin Newsom's going to roll it back? You think the pendulum's swinging back and forth? You think he's going to roll it back? I don't. Do you, chat? All those hardcore conservatives, all those hardcore Christian conservatives out there that claim that they stand for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, where are you? Trump's shredding them. Like Mar-a-Lago, confidential documents, shredding them. Even Rob Dew had the self-reflection to say, well, what if the Democrats get back in power? Where you at? You got to keep saying that I'm mentally ill, that I need therapy to the Gnostic in my chat that wants to say that about me? Get saved, bud. I pray for you and hope that you get saved. For people out there saying, John, the crime in D.C. is unreal. You have Trump derangement syndrome. He's cleaning it up. But you're supposedly a constitutionalist, supposedly a conservatist, right? A conservative Christian, right? Or a conservative, but yet you're fine when your guy does all these things. And you don't think if the next party gets into power, if there is a next time, that they're not, it's not going to swing back even harder. There is no giving inches anymore. Trump's taking miles, chat.
This country, anywhere in the world. So it's an honor to be involved, and this group has a lot to do with it right behind me.
This group, the CMP, right? The people behind him, right? So you have Texas versus Johnson here. Oral arguments were held on March 21st, 1989. David D. Cole and William Kunstler argued the case on behalf of Gregory Lee Johnson, and Kathy Elise Drew argued on behalf of the state of Texas. During oral arguments, the state defended its statute on two grounds. First, states had a compelling interest in perceiving a venerated national symbol. And second, the state had a compelling interest in preventing breaches of peace. Supreme Court handed down a 5-4 opinion on June 21st, 1989 in favor of Johnson. Justice William Brennan authored a majority opinion, which Justice Thurgood Marshall, Harry Blackmun, Antonin Scalia, and Anthony Kennedy joined. Antonin Scalia, the CMP conservative justice? Why would he say flag burning is okay? It was a mixture of conservative and progressive justices that allied together for this opinion. In a majority opinion, Brennan reiterated the court's long-held recognition that the First Amendment to the United States Constitution protects non-speech acts as being symbolic speech, right, and that the First Amendment's protection on speech does not end at the spoken or written word. The court recognized flags as being vessels of symbolic speech, in which the court overruled the conviction of a youth camp worker who displayed a red flag at the camp. Brennan also invoked Tinker Voice's Des Moines Independent Community School District, in which the court recognized the wearing of a black armband as a form of speech to demonstrate the court's history of recognizing symbolic actions as protected speech. So symbolic actions are protected. They're a form of speech. All right, so let's continue here. We have Trump worshiping himself there and Bondi worshiping him as well.
There's no auto pen that can do that, right? Look at that, Pam. Is that a good signature? Seriously, is that a good signature? Who can write like that? Nobody. I don't know. That's the other thing. I assume we're looking at the whole auto pen scam.
Sir.
Because the person that ran it said he spoke to it briefly twice.
It's such a great signature, right? Bondi had to say, Scientology Pam Bondi had to tell him such a great signature, right, chat? Such a great signature. Such a great signature. Then we're going to talk about AutoPen. We're going to talk about the pardons being annulled. Here we have, again, we played earlier. They called me the president of Europe. Just want to play this again and talk about this for a second.
Where they respect your president to a level that they jokingly call me the president of Europe. They call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. I like Europe, and I like...
They call me president of Europe. They call me president of America. They call me president of North America. They call me president of the Americans. They call me president of Israel. They call me president of the world. President of the world. You don't think that's not coming? You don't think that's not coming, chat? We already know that Trump is preparing to invade Venezuela and Mexico, which is the incomplete plan, the Council for National Policy of the 1980s with coming of Rex 2025. We've already talked about that. Do you understand? Do you understand this is just a continuation of it? Wake up, people.
Those people, they're good people. They're great leaders. And we've never had a case where 7 plus really 28, essentially 38 countries were represented here the other day. 38 European countries were represented. European and other countries were represented.
Yeah. Serio, Trump, a lot of people are saying maybe we'd like a dictator. Oh, Trump's just trolling, chat. It's just jokes. Just jokes, chat.
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now.
It is a killing field, chat. A killing field. Killing field. And look, I understand Chicago does have a crime problem, a crime issue. But we just going to do away with Posse Comitatus and have the soldiers working with law enforcement to arrest using lethal force and JAG officers who are usually used for military tribunals to be used to prosecute even misdemeanors. We're just throwing away the Constitution, just throwing away the Bill of Rights, just throwing away law and order for dictator and tyrannism.
And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person.
Return to common sense. Yeah, we've been talking about the return to common sense, right? For a long time. Where the term common sense comes from the Revolution Enlightenment era of, deists and Freemasons and Jefferson and Franklin and all that, right? The founding fathers of America, right? And then common sense later being in so-called R.C. Christian Return to Common Sense pamphlet. And R.C. Christian is the student. If you want to go look at Christian J. Penno's documentary of who R.C. Christian is who he likely is in the foundation of the Georgia Guidestones, I definitely recommend go watch that documentary. I'm not going to spoil it for you here. But the term common sense and the return of common sense, and common sense being used by the John Birch Society, common sense being used by the Council for National Policy, common sense being a rally cry now of MAGA and a continuing rally cry of Trump, just like we the people. Right? It's a common sense thing. It's a common sense argument to have the troops on the streets and going against Posse Comitatus and have them arresting and have them, shooting and killing people using lethal force and using JAG to prosecute, using military law to prosecute civil law. That's how you get law and order, isn't it, chat? Trump's a law and order president. As H.P. Lovecraft said in the chat, the last president, right? We're talking about Ingersoll Lockwood, the theosophist himself, who wrote a lot about common sense and wrote a lot about, theosophy and how we should do away with Christianity. Right? We should do away with Christianity because that's the common sense thing to do. From the Luciferian Thomas Paine to R.C. Christian, to Ingersoll Lockwood, to R.C. Christian, and now the rallying cry of Trump, the CMP, and the John Birch Society, a return to common sense. Common sense just means that we shred the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which the JBS and the CMP claim they're for and claim they're upholding, but they're not. And for what? Law and order, the pendulum swing of the crime increasing under the Biden administration and the increasing of the technocracy through Anduril Industries till now. The Wretched Watchman did an excellent video showing that Mithril and Anduril Industry drones are now being used in schools. They're going to have drones in schools to stop school shootings that they're piloting under Ron DeSantis, CMP Ron DeSantis in Florida. All for law and order. Well, law and order, if taken too far, makes the president a tyrant. Are you prepared to order National Guard troops in American cities if those governors don't request the federal deployment? I am.
Are you prepared to order National Guard troops, though, into American cities if those governors don't request the federal deployment?
I am, but I also think that, look, Chicago, everybody knows how bad it is. Everybody standing there knows. We know. You don't have to be doing any studies. They should be saying, please come in. Pritzker should be saying that. I did a favor for Christy Whitman.
Christy Whitman? You mean Gretchen Whitmer? Who's Christy Whitman? I know Christy Nome. Who's Christy Whitman, chat? You mean Gretchen Whitmer? The governor of Michigan, Trump?
Whitmer, a good.
Are you prepared to?
Everybody always talks about Biden's dementia. Why is very few people on the right talking about Trump's dementia? And I understand people misspeak, myself included. You forget. Sometimes you have brain fog. Sometimes I butcher the English language like I got marbles in my mouth. But come on. Trump's gait, Trump's bruises on his hands akin to IVs, chat? His venous insufficiency? His dementia in and of itself? Now, you could argue it's not as bad as Biden's. I don't know. But we're acting like that this is a man that is your best interest in heart. If Biden was doing these things, you guys would be losing your everlasting mind. But Trump's doing it. It's good. It's fine. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Now, I understand the left, you know, when Biden locked down January 6th, you know, and left out all the gating after January 6th in D.C. Yeah, I mean, me, Billy, and Recluse were walking around. I don't know. I guess we could walk around D.C. now. I guess you could make that argument. But, you know, did that ever go away, as I talked about in one of the previous streams? No. It didn't. This is a far continuation, though. This is the next step. Will there be someone else to carry this next step after Trump? I don't know.
Order National Guard troops, though, into American.
All right, here we go.
The Pentagon and maybe the Secretary of Defense can weigh into, is the Pentagon preparing for military deployment to Chicago? And with what you said there, are you waiting for the governor?
We're ready to go anywhere. We have
want us to call you,
a
though?
full complement of great human beings.
We're ready to go anywhere. Chicago, L.A., Israel, Gaza, Venezuela, Mexico, anywhere. We're willing to invade anywhere, right? Just might as well, right? Screw the Constitution, screw the Bill of Rights. Not that any president ever upheld it. Screw Posse Comitatus, screw law. I'm the law and order president, but I'm just going to throw law just into the shredder. Who cares? The dumpster. Who cares? Screw the personal sovereignty of other states, including Mexico. Just screw it all. We're nationalists, right? Nationalists, and we're nationalists, and we're restrictivists, right? We want people to respect our borders, but we're not going to respect the borders of another nation.
We're full. You know, our military is full. We were way empty 1 year ago. Now we're full. So we can go anywhere on less than 24 hours notice.
Are you waiting for the governor?
And we're doing a lot to interdict to stop drugs from coming in, too. We have ships out on sea. You know, we have nobody coming through our border anymore. Nobody. Doesn't that feel good to know that you don't have prisoners coming in and, you know, killers, murders?
And let's look at something real quick, chat. You want to look at something real quick? Let's look at Posse Comitatus for a minute, chat. Let's look at Posse Comitatus. All right, and let's look at something. Let's take a look, chat. Let's take a look. In 2021, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022 further expanded the scope of the act to cover the United States, the Marine Corps, and the Space Force. This act does not prevent Army National Guard or Air National Guard under state authority. Okay, so, well, who did that? Well, that would be under the Biden administration. So the Biden administration actually did something right, chat? They did something right? They did something right. Now, the states can call in the National Guard in. That does not go against Posse Comitatus. The state saying, hey, I need help. The governor saying, I need help. That's lawful, according to Posse Comitatus. Not what Trump's doing. The governors are saying, don't come in. Trump's like, screw you, I'm coming in. But look, the Biden administration actually did something right. Imagine that. So here's Truth Stream Media just showing a continuation My open letter went ignored, as I expect it should. Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God, disobedience against those who would play at God and pretend to hold authority. This was one side of the proposed Great Seal of the United States. Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. Now, that language has been attributed to Benjamin Franklin, been attributed to Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson actually put it on his personal seal at Monticello. He put it up there. And you can go back to my previous stream of why this is not biblical. Why this is not biblical. And just some verses real quick, just some verses. Reading from Philippians 3 here. Brethren, join following my example and note those who so walk as you have us for a pattern. For many walk for whom I have told you often, now tell you even weeping, that they are the enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is their shame, who set their mind on earthly things. For our citizenship is in heaven, for which we also eagerly await for the Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform our lowly body, that it may be conformed to his glorious body, according to the working by which he is able even to subdue all things to himself. Okay? So, we have Jesus, when he was giving his prayer to God the Father, they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Now, it's not in the Bible, per se, to be in the world but not of the world. But you could argue that the scriptures kind of make an alluding to that, right? An alluding to that, right? It doesn't mean that we don't do anything. It doesn't mean that, of course we do the Great Commission as Jesus Christ, go out and, preach the gospel, make disciples if they believe, baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, love our neighbors ourselves, love God above all, the laws of Christ, fulfilling them. It doesn't mean that we don't try to better our communities, better our states, our countries, by working from the local level and doing those things to hopefully, again, what's more important, forcing law and order or a heart change of people becoming born again and turning towards God and walking with God and trying to be more Christ-like as a way to change society. All right? What's more important, that or forcing laws or forcing law and order, right? And there's just been an argument between how much Christians put into the earthly kingdoms and how much they are part of the heavenly kingdom. When you can go too far, like the Amish and completely separate yourselves. The only way they're fulfilling the Great Commission, if you can even say that they are, is by the billboards that they put up on the side of the road. A lot of the billboards, as you say, that you call, to learn about the gospel and stuff like that. Those millions upon millions of dollars that are spent, that's done by the Anabaptists. That's done by the Amish, okay? But they separate themselves completely, and you could argue if they were not doing those billboards that they would not be fulfilling the Great Commission, which calls us to preach the gospel. So again, though it's not in the Bible, be in the world, but not of the world. So in one of the early writings of the church, the epistle to Diogenes from Matthews, which means disciple of Jesus Christ, right? They kind of discuss this idea, okay? And I'm not saying I completely agree with the disciple here, but, there are a lot of things that I talk about that I agree with the relations of Christians to this world and how we should act, what it should be, right? So let's read again. It's from chapter 5 and chapter 6. For the Christians are distinguished from other men neither by country nor language nor the customs which they observe, for they neither inhabit cities of their own nor employ a peculiar form of speech, nor lead a life which is marked out by any singularity. The course of conduct which they follow has not been devised by any speculation or deliberation of inquisitive men, nor do they, like some, proclaim themselves the advocates of any merely human doctrines. By inhabiting Greek as well as barbarian cities, according as the lot of each of them has determined, following the customs of the natives in respect to clothing, food, and the rest of their ordinary conduct, they display to us their wonderful and confessedly striking method of life. They dwell in their own countries, but simply as sojourners. As citizens, they share in all things with others, and yet endure all things as of foreigners. Every foreign land is to them as their native country, and every land of their birth as the land of strangers. They marry as do all others. They beget children, but they do not destroy their offspring. Abortion. They have a common table, but not a common bed. They are in the flesh, but do not live after the flesh. They pass their days on earth, but they are citizens of heaven. They obey the prescribed laws and at the same time surpass the laws by their lives. They love all men and are persecuted by all. They are unknown and condemned. They are put to death and restored to life. They are poor, yet make many rich. They are in lack of all things and yet abound in all. They are dishonored, and yet they are very dishonored or glorified. They are evil speaking of, and yet are justified. They are reviled and blessed. They are insulted and repay the insult with honor. They do good, yet are punished as evildoers. When punished, they rejoice as if quickened into life. They are assailed by the Jews as foreigners and are persecuted by the Greeks. Yet those who hate them are unable to assign any reason for their hatred. A lot of truth there. Even today. To sum it up all in one word, when the soul is in the body, Christians are in the world. The soul is dispersed through all members of the body, and Christians are scattered through all the cities of the world. The soul dwells in the body, yet is not of the body, and Christians dwell in the world, yet are not of the world. Very interesting. Kind of colloquialism that's still used today, right? The invisible soul is guarded by the visible body, and Christians are known indeed to be in the world, but their godliness remains invisible. The flesh hates the soul and wars against it. Through itself suffering no injury, because it's prevented from enjoying pleasures, the world also hates the Christians, though in no wise injured, because they abjure pleasures. The soul loves the flesh that hates it, and loves also the members. Christians likewise love those that hate them. The soul is imprisoned in the body, yet keeps together that very body, and Christians are confined in the world as in a prison, and yet they keep together the world. The immortal soul dwells in the mortal tabernacle, and Christians dwell as sojourners in corruptible bodies, looking for incorruptible dwelling in the heavens. The soul will, but all ill provided with food and drink, becomes better. Like manner, the Christians, though subjected day to day to punishment, increase the more in number. God has assigned them to this illustrious position, which were unlawful for them to forsake. And yeah, I understand looking at the world as a prison, even though it's not necessarily what disciple is doing in a Gnostic sense. I would disagree of looking at it in prison because God made the world and he said it was very good, right? So we're not to escape from the world in that regard, okay? I would say that this is bordering on Gnosticism, this one specific sentence. But a lot of this and its sentiment I do agree with. And I think it's kind of what Christianity, is, as the disciples taught, as the early church believed and taught themselves. And you have Freemasons, you have Luciferians like Thomas Paine, you have deists that were our founding fathers that, a lot of conservatives and a lot of conservative Christians and Christians sadly idolize when they, many of them were not Christians. I believe Patrick Henry was a born-again Christian. But many of them were not. Many of the founding fathers were not Christians. They were fallible men, and a few of them actively hated God. They hated Jesus. They hated the gospel. Thomas Jefferson's, quote-unquote New Testament takes the divinity and the miracles out that our Lord Jesus Christ had performed. Thomas Paine was an open Luciferian. These people were not of God. So when they say, they were supposed to rebel against tyrants, and that's obedience to God, I would say resisting the evil that tyrants do and call us to do is obedience to God, because that is harder. It's easier to foment a rebellion. It's easier to participate in a rebellion than it is for you to passively resist and do what you are commanded to do, which is to love and pray for even your tyrannical leaders. That's harder. That requires more humbleness. That requires a greater faith. And I know a lot of people are not going to want to hear this. A lot of people who are in the world and are of the world are not going to want to hear this. And a lot of Christians, sadly, are not going to hear this. Why? Because they idolize America and Americana more than God. They put that above God. I am a Christian first and American citizen second. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to turn my back and betray the American citizens, my fellow brothers and sisters, okay? But, however, I will resist the king if he's a tyrant. Now, if the tyrant, puts forth a law like the speeding limit outside of my house, I'll obey it. Makes sense. If the tyrant is actively jailing people, being a tyrant, then I'm going to speak out against that of being wrong if they've committed no crime. Again, it just depends. The walk of honoring God, honoring Jesus Christ and his commandments, versus the flesh. The flesh wants retribution. The flesh wants vengeance. You understand? The flesh wants war. The flesh wants all these things. Rebellion. Well, God says rebellion is akin to the sin of witchcraft. So yeah, I've resisted Trump by speaking out against his falsehoods, by preaching the gospel, by trying my best to live a Christian life, the things that Jesus has commanded of me. And I'll continue to do so as far as speaking out against Trump and speaking out, against the wrongdoings of any leader, Biden or etc., the exposed unfruitful works of darkness. But I also continue to pray for them. I also continue to love them to the best of my ability. But I'm not going to call for their overthrowment. And I'm not going to participate in it either. And neither should you. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't. Neither should you. We're citizens of heaven. We're only temporary citizens of the United States of America. And I know that is extremely hard for a lot of people to realize. I used to be as patriotic, blue blood American as they came. Not blue blood as form as an elite, but blue blood is form as, like they usually say, I guess red-blooded. Red-blooded American is what I should have said. I'm as red-blooded as American as they come, not blue-blooded. Red-blooded American, patriotic. I remember when I was a New Ager and I voted for Trump and I was really behind America then and was proud to say the American flag. I thought we were taking it back. I thought we were taking the country back, chat. I thought that's what was happening. I thought we were taking the country back. I was a red-blooded, Pledge of Allegiance, patriotic, flag-waving American. How wrong was I? How wrong was I? That's all I got. Take care, everyone. God bless.